her baby was crying from hunger in the grass. The Apache warrior embraced the little one. The sun rose slowly over the wide golden plains, painting the grass in shades of gold and green. Tiny droplets of morning dew clung to each blade of grass, sparkling like little diamonds under the light. Birds began their soft morning songs, and the wind whispered gently across the fields. But amidst this quiet beauty there was another sound, one much more urgent, sharp, and full of need. It was the cry of a baby, tiny and fragile, calling out for something only its mother could give. A young mother crouched in the tall grass, her face streaked with sweat and worry. Her dark hair clung to her forehead, damp from the early morning heat, and her hands trembled slightly as she reached for her baby. She had been walking for hours, searching for food, water, and safety. Every step on the rough, uneven land had been heavy, weighed down not only by the heat but also by the tiny life in her arms. The baby's cries cut through the quiet of the plains, small and helpless, demanding attention and filling the mother with both fear and determination. It said, she laid the baby carefully on the soft grass, hoping to soothe it while she tried to think. Its tiny fists waved in the air, and its mouth opened wide with hunger, the sound growing more desperate with each passing minute. She whispered words of comfort, soft and trembling, words that the baby could not yet understand but felt in the rhythm of her voice. She rocked the little one gently, trying to calm it, but the cries only grew louder. The mother's heart ached. She had so little to offer, and yet she wanted to give everything. The plains stretched endlessly around her, a mix of rolling grasslands and scattered shrubs. Far in the distance, the faint outline of mountains stood against the sky, strong and silent. The wind carried the scent of wildflowers, dry earth, and sage. But for the mother, the world had narrowed to one urgent need: the baby's hunger. She searched her small satchel again, but all she found were a few dried berries, barely enough to fill her own stomach, let alone her child's. She chewed them slowly, hoping the act would give her some comfort, but her worry only deepened. The baby's cries grew more insistent, tiny arms reaching out as if trying to grasp something it could not name. The mother bent over, her forehead almost touching the soft, waving grass. She whispered softly, "I'm here, my little one. I won't let anything happen to you." She could feel the heat of the sun pressing down on her back and shoulders, and the sweat ran in streams along her face. Her body ached from walking, carrying, and worrying, but her focus never left the baby. Time seemed to stretch endlessly. The birds' songs above felt distant, and the wind that had been gentle now carried a faint sting of dust across her face. She tried to make shade with her body, wrapping a thin cloth around the baby's small head, hoping to protect it from the harsh sun. Every cry the baby made felt like a small arrow to her heart, each one piercing her with guilt and fear. She wanted to find food, water, and safety, but she was alone, and the vastness of the plains made every step forward feel heavy and uncertain. She looked around, scanning the horizon. The land was wide and open, with no sign of other people nearby. Every movement in the grass made her heart skip a beat. Perhaps it was an animal, perhaps it was another human. She had learned long ago to be cautious, to read the land, to understand its quiet signals. But now, all caution seemed small compared to the urgent need of the little life she held so close. The baby's tiny hands brushed against her chin, searching, grasping for comfort. Its eyes, wide and pleading, met hers. The mother felt a wave of love and fear, a mix so strong it almost knocked the air from her lungs. She whispered again, "Please, my little one, hold on. Just a little longer. We will find something. We will be okay." She knew the words were not enough to fill the empty hunger, but they were all she had to give. She tried to nurse the baby, hoping to calm it, but her body was weak and she had little nourishment herself. The baby's tiny cries shook her, and she felt a mix of helplessness and determination. Every mother in the world wanted to give her child life and safety, and she was no different. She brushed a strand of hair from her face and looked down at the baby, so small, so dependent, so precious. The wind shifted, carrying a faint rustle through the grass. The mother froze, listening. Her heart pounded in her chest. The plains were full of life, some friendly, some dangerous. She could not tell what had made the sound, but every instinct told her to stay alert. Her hands tightened around the baby's small body as she scanned the horizon again. Minutes passed, though it felt like hours. The sun climbed higher, the heat pressing against her back and shoulders. The baby's cries had softened only slightly, as if exhaustion had begun to take hold. She hummed a soft tune, a lullaby she had learned from her own mother, letting the rhythm of her voice blend with the wind, hoping it might soothe the little one. Slowly, a tiny hand moved to rest against her cheek, and a sigh of relief escaped her lips. For a moment, she let herself breathe, but the fear returned quickly. The plains were vast, and she was alone. She had little food, no clear water nearby, and no way to know what dangers might come with the rising sun. Yet she refused to give in to despair. She wrapped the baby carefully in her thin cloth again, holding it close to her heart. Every heartbeat she felt was a promise. She would not let this tiny life go hungry, cold, or alone. She thought of the stories her elders had told her of courage and protection, of people who had helped each other across these same endless plains. She prayed silently that someone would come, someone strong and kind, to help her in this desperate moment. The baby's cries grew faint, then louder again, each one a tiny drumbeat of need. She whispered words of comfort and hope, repeating them as if the repetition could make them true. "We will be okay. We will find help. Hold on, my little one. Hold on." As she sat there, the mother became aware of the small miracles in the world around her. The sunlight reflecting on dew, the gentle sway of grass in the wind, the distant call of a bird. It reminded her that life, even in its most difficult moments, held beauty and hope. She brushed the sweat from her face and straightened her back, lifting the baby slightly higher. The cries continued, but she refused to let fear dominate her heart. Every second was an opportunity, every movement a chance to survive and protect the small life entrusted to her. And then, far across the plains, a shadow moved. It was small at first, almost invisible against the wide golden fields, but it grew clearer as it approached. The mother's heart leapt. Could it be someone who would help? Could it be another life, willing to share compassion in this vast and sometimes lonely world? Her hands held the baby a little tighter, and her eyes searched the horizon with hope and careful attention, ready to welcome whoever, or whatever, might come to offer aid. The baby's cries filled the air once more, demanding attention, pleading for relief. But in that moment, the mother held firm, her heart steady, her spirit unbroken. She was determined, above all, to protect this tiny life, and somewhere in the distance, a presence began to move closer, a presence that would change the course of their day, and perhaps their lives forever. The shadow that had appeared in the distance slowly took form as the morning light grew brighter. It was a man walking steadily across the plains, moving with a quiet confidence that seemed to belong to the land itself. He was tall and strong, with broad shoulders and careful, measured steps. His clothing blended with the earth, soft leather and muted colors that spoke of someone who spent a lifetime living in harmony with the natural world. In his hands he carried no weapons, only a small bundle of supplies. Yet even without weapons, his presence held an unmistakable strength. As he drew closer, the man noticed the waving grass ahead and the small figure barely visible among the golden stalks. His sharp eyes, trained from years of watching the land, immediately caught sight of the tiny baby and the young mother crouched protectively nearby. The mother had seen him too, and for a moment her heart froze. She did not know if he was a friend or a stranger, if he would offer help or if he would bring danger. Every instinct screamed at her to protect the baby, to keep it safe no matter the cost. The man paused for a moment, studying the scene before him. He could see the exhaustion written on the mother's face, the desperate worry in her eyes, and the hunger in the baby's cries. He did not rush forward but walked slowly, deliberately, showing no sudden movements that might frighten either the mother or the child. He understood the importance of trust, even in a moment of urgency. The baby's cries grew louder as he approached, tiny and urgent, a sound that carried across the wide plains. The mother's hands clutched the baby closer to her chest, her body shielding it as best she could. She whispered softly, her voice trembling but firm, "It's okay, little one. We are not alone anymore. Stay strong." Her eyes never left the approaching figure, measuring every step he took, searching for any sign of threat. The man stopped just a few steps away, crouching slightly to lower himself to their level. He spoke gently, his voice calm and steady, carrying across the grass without startling the baby. "I see your little one is hungry," he said. "Do not worry. I will help." His words were soft, filled with kindness, and carried a warmth that seemed to wrap around the mother's heart. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The mother studied him carefully, trying to decide if she could trust him. There was something in the way he held himself, something in the gentle strength of his eyes, that told her he meant no harm. Slowly, cautiously, she nodded, her voice barely a whisper. "Please, help him." The man smiled slightly and stepped closer, keeping his movements slow and deliberate. He reached into the small bundle he carried and pulled out a piece of cloth, folded neatly. He placed it gently near the mother and the baby, a simple act of care, showing that he came with help, not judgment. The mother relaxed just a little, her hand still holding the baby close but loosening slightly as hope began to grow. He spoke again, softly, as if speaking to both the mother and the baby together. "Do not fear. Little ones need care and warmth. I will help you." He knelt down fully now, keeping his distance respectful, and extended his hands slowly toward the baby, showing patience and understanding. The baby's cries did not stop immediately, but the urgency in them began to soften, as if sensing the calm presence nearby. The mother watched closely as he gently placed a hand near the baby, allowing the little one to feel the warmth of his touch without forcing anything. She could see the care in his movements, the way his fingers hovered lightly, ready to help, but never threatening. The baby's tiny fists relaxed slightly, its cries turning into small whimpers of curiosity rather than fear. The man spoke again, this time to the mother. "You have done well to care for your little one alone. It is not easy walking these plains with such a small life in your arms. But now you do not have to be alone." His voice was steady and kind, each word carrying reassurance. The mother felt tears rise in her eyes, tears of relief and gratitude. She had been alone for so long, carrying the weight of responsibility on her own. Now, for the first time in hours, she felt a small sense of hope. The baby's cries softened further as the man slowly moved closer, showing the mother how he would help. He reached into his bundle again, this time bringing out a small piece of food, something simple but nourishing. The mother watched as he carefully offered it, demonstrating patience and understanding, letting the baby take it when ready. Slowly, carefully, the infant accepted the sustenance, small hands grasping at the morsel, eyes wide with cautious trust. The mother's heart swelled with gratitude and relief. She could feel the tension in her body begin to ease, the constant worry lifting just enough to allow her to breathe. She whispered softly to the baby, "See, there are kind people in the world. We are not alone anymore." The baby's tiny fingers curled around the food, and its lips met the small offering with the first satisfaction it had known in hours. The man stayed close, watching both the mother and the baby carefully. He could see that the mother was exhausted, that she had carried not only the baby, but the weight of fear, hunger, and uncertainty. He offered water next, pouring a small amount into a clean container and showing the mother how to let the baby drink safely. Each act was careful, deliberate, filled with respect and kindness. The baby drank, its tiny body gaining strength with each sip. As the minutes passed, the mother began to feel a connection forming, not just with the man who had appeared seemingly out of nowhere, but also with the land itself, the wide plains that had seemed so harsh just hours before. The gentle breeze, the waving grass, the distant mountains, all of it seemed to carry a quiet promise that life, even in its most difficult moments, could offer help and hope when least expected. The man spoke again, gently but firmly. "The plains are wide and danger can be near, but kindness can be found too. Today, you and your little one are safe. For now, that is what matters most." His words carried the wisdom of someone who had seen many seasons, who had learned to read the land, the animals, and the people who traveled it. The mother nodded, feeling the truth in them, feeling a calm she had not known for hours. The baby, now quieter and calmer, nestled against the mother's chest. The man's presence remained a gentle reassurance nearby, but he did not intrude. He understood the importance of space, of letting trust grow naturally. The mother began to whisper softly to him, telling him her name and the baby's name, sharing the first words of connection. The man listened, nodding with understanding, showing respect for the bond between mother and child. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, the heat grew stronger and the plains seemed endless once again. Yet, in this small circle of grass and life, a sense of safety had been restored. The mother felt hope returning in a way she had not expected, and the baby, finally fed and comforted, let out soft coos of contentment. The man smiled quietly, knowing that sometimes the simplest acts, offering food, water, warmth, and a calm presence, could make the greatest difference. The moment stretched, filled with the quiet sounds of life returning to balance. The rustle of the grass, the soft coos of the baby, the distant calls of birds. The mother held the little one tightly, but her grip was now one of peace rather than desperation. She could feel the strength returning to her body, the weight of fear easing just enough to let her breathe. The man stood slowly, keeping his movements careful and deliberate. "We should move carefully now," he said, his voice calm and steady. "There is water not far from here, and we can find food to help both of you." The mother nodded, trusting him completely, knowing that she and her baby were in capable, compassionate hands. Together they began to prepare to move, the baby safely cradled against the mother's chest, its tiny body now nourished and soothed. The plains stretched endlessly around them, but for the first time that day, the wide open land no longer seemed threatening. With careful steps, guided by the gentle strength of the stranger who had appeared at the right moment, they began to make their way forward, toward safety, toward life, and toward hope. The mother felt a mixture of relief and caution as she followed the man across the plains, her tiny baby cradled carefully against her chest. Every step seemed lighter than before, though the heat of the sun still pressed down on her shoulders. The baby had grown calmer after eating and drinking, but it was still small and fragile. Its tiny hands rested against the mother's chest, fingers curling and uncurling as it slowly drifted between moments of alertness and sleep. The man walked beside her quietly, his presence steady and reassuring. He seemed to move as part of the land itself, his steps silent on the grass, his eyes always scanning the horizon for signs of danger. There was something in the way he carried himself, a quiet confidence, a careful patience, that told the mother he knew these plains well. She felt a growing trust in him, though she remained cautious, aware that the world could be unpredictable. They walked for a while in silence, broken only by the soft coos of the baby and the distant calls of birds. The plains stretched endlessly, golden and green, with tall grasses swaying in the warm morning breeze. Small shrubs dotted the land, providing little shade, and the mountains in the distance seemed farther than they had in the early morning. Yet with the man by her side, the mother felt a little less alone, a little less burdened by the vastness of the open fields. At one point, the baby stirred, its tiny cries breaking the calm. The mother bent down, murmuring gentle words to soothe it. "It's okay, little one," she whispered. "We are safe now. You're with someone who cares." The man knelt beside them, watching quietly, then offered a soft smile. "Sometimes the smallest voices are the strongest," he said. His words were simple, but they carried a wisdom and understanding that made the mother feel seen and heard. As they continued, the man pointed toward a cluster of trees in the distance. "There is water there," he said, "and some shade. We can rest for a while. You and the baby need it, and so do I." The mother nodded, grateful for the guidance. The thought of shade and cool water gave her hope, and she quickened her steps slightly, careful not to jostle the baby. When they reached the trees, the mother carefully lowered herself to the soft grass beneath the shade. She placed the baby gently on a small blanket the man had produced from his bundle, ensuring it remained comfortable and protected. The baby's tiny fingers reached for the man's hand, curiosity sparkling in its small eyes. He smiled gently, letting the little one feel his warmth without forcing it. Slowly, the baby began to relax again, its soft cries fading into quiet coos of contentment. The mother watched them carefully, her eyes filled with a mixture of awe and gratitude. She could see that the man genuinely cared, not just for the baby, but for her as well. His actions were deliberate, patient, and gentle, and she could feel the comfort of having someone watch over them in this vast and sometimes lonely land. He whispered softly to the baby, "See, there are good people in the world. People who help without asking for anything in return." The man reached into his bundle again and produced a small piece of cloth. He showed the mother how to use it to gently wipe the baby's face and hands, keeping it clean and comfortable. The mother followed his guidance carefully, her hands learning to move with the same gentleness he showed. The baby responded with tiny smiles and soft coos, and the mother felt a surge of relief. For the first time that morning, she could imagine a path forward, a way to keep her child safe in this wide and sometimes harsh world. After a short while, the man spoke, his voice calm and steady. "You have been strong." It is not easy to care for someone so small alone, especially in the heat and the open land. But strength comes not just from the body, but from the heart. And your heart is strong. The mother's eyes filled with tears, and she whispered a quiet "thank you." Words were not enough to express her gratitude, but they carried the weight of relief and hope she felt in that moment. The baby, sensing the calm and safety, began to reach for the man's hand again. He allowed it, letting the small fingers curl around his own. The mother watched, amazed at the trust developing between them. She realized that sometimes kindness could be shown in the simplest ways, through gentle touch, soft words, and patience. The baby's tiny grip on the man's hand was a silent acknowledgement of care, a small bond that needed no words to be understood. The man looked at the mother, his eyes kind but serious. "We must be careful," he said. "The plains are beautiful, but they are also unpredictable. We must move slowly and watch for what might come." The mother nodded, understanding the truth in his words. She had already learned the harshness of the land, and she knew that even small moments of safety could not last without vigilance. They rested under the shade for a while longer. The man shared some of his supplies, small pieces of food and water that he had carried for long journeys. The mother accepted them gratefully, careful not to waste anything. She fed the baby slowly, watching as the tiny hands reached for the morsels, and she felt a sense of pride and relief. Her little one was safe, nourished, and beginning to regain strength. As the sun climbed higher, the heat pressed down more strongly, but the shade provided a small refuge. The man stood and stretched slightly, his movements deliberate and careful. "We should prepare to move again," he said. "There is more to see, more to reach, and the baby will need shade and safety along the way. The plains are wide, and the journey continues." The mother nodded, grateful for his guidance and understanding. They packed their small belongings carefully. The baby was lifted into the mother's arms once more, cradled securely and comforted by her warmth. The man walked beside them, his eyes constantly scanning the land, ensuring that no harm would come their way. There was a rhythm to their movements, a careful balance of care, patience, and vigilance that made even the vast plains feel manageable. As they walked, the mother felt a growing sense of trust. She could see that the man was not just strong, but also compassionate, someone who understood the importance of life in its smallest and most fragile forms. She whispered softly to the baby, telling it stories of the plains, of the sun, the wind, and the grass, hoping to teach it about the world even in these earliest moments. The baby listened with wide, curious eyes, its tiny fingers occasionally brushing against the mother's face as if trying to understand every word. The man continued to move with them, pointing out small landmarks, showing safe paths through the taller grasses, and offering advice on where to find water and shade. Every suggestion was given gently, never commanding, always guiding. The mother learned quickly, trusting his knowledge and experience. She began to feel a sense of control returning, a sense that even in this vast open land, she could protect her child with careful thought and the help of someone who cared. Time passed slowly but steadily. The baby's cries were now rare, replaced by soft coos and quiet murmurs. The mother's heart was lighter, her steps more confident. She began to notice the beauty of the plains, the way the sunlight shimmered on the grass, the gentle sway of the shrubs, the distant mountains standing tall against the blue sky. Even the harshness of the sun and the heat could not diminish the wonder she felt, especially now that she knew they were not alone. The man walked beside them, always watchful, always patient. He spoke little, but when he did, his words carried guidance, reassurance, and wisdom. He showed them how to find small pools of water, how to recognize safe paths, and how to keep the baby comfortable during the journey. Every small act was a lesson, teaching the mother not just how to survive, but how to care, how to notice, and how to protect. As the sun began to dip lower in the sky, the mother realized that she had not felt this level of hope in hours, maybe even days. The vast plains, which had once seemed endless and threatening, now felt navigable with the man's guidance. She whispered a quiet prayer of thanks, not just for the man, but for the kindness and care that existed even in unexpected places. The baby, sensing her calm, let out a small, content sigh and rested against her chest. In that moment, the mother understood something profound, that even in the most challenging times, compassion could appear, unbidden, in the form of a stranger willing to help. She looked at the man, gratitude shining in her eyes, and for the first time that day allowed herself to believe that the journey ahead, while long, could be traveled with hope. The plains stretched endlessly under the late afternoon sun, waves of golden grass bending in the warm breeze. The mother carried her baby close, its small body pressed gently against her chest, and she could feel every heartbeat as if it were her own. The baby's eyes blinked sleepily, tiny hands curling and uncurling, seeking warmth and comfort. Though nourished and rested for a short while, the infant still needed protection, and the mother's heart swelled with both love and worry. The Apache warrior walked steadily beside them, his presence calm but vigilant. Every step he took seemed to belong naturally to the land, and his watchful eyes scanned the horizon for signs of danger or opportunity. He carried no weapon in his hands, only a small satchel of supplies, but the strength in his posture and the quiet determination in his eyes told the mother that they were safe with him. He understood the land, its dangers, and its small, hidden blessings. The mother felt a flicker of hope, a small relief after so many hours of fear and uncertainty. She could see that the warrior's movements were deliberate, each one chosen with care. He did not rush or force them along the plains, but guided them gently, letting the baby's needs dictate the pace. The mother whispered softly to the infant, "We are safe now, little one. We have someone to help us." The baby's tiny hands pressed against her chest, almost as if it understood, and it let out a small coo of comfort. As they walked, the warrior paused occasionally to point out landmarks, a patch of shade under a lone tree, a small creek where water ran clear and cool, a safe path through the taller grasses. Each suggestion was given softly, with patience, showing the mother that the journey could be managed with careful observation and thoughtful action. She began to feel a sense of security she had not felt for hours, a trust slowly building in the presence of this stranger who had appeared like a guardian from the land itself. Suddenly, the baby stirred more actively, tiny fists reaching out, eyes wide with curiosity. Its soft cries began to rise again, signaling hunger or discomfort. The mother knelt in the grass, careful to protect the small body, murmuring gentle words of comfort. "It's okay, little one," she whispered. "Help is here. You are not alone." She tried to soothe the baby, rocking it gently in her arms, but the cries continued, small yet urgent. The warrior knelt beside them, his hands steady and reassuring. He extended his arms slowly, offering to help, and the mother looked at him with a mixture of gratitude and hesitation. She had learned to be cautious, to protect her child from any stranger, yet there was something in his calm presence that told her he could be trusted. Slowly she nodded, her hand still supporting the baby's tiny body. With careful movements, he took the infant into his arms, holding it close against his chest. The mother watched, heart racing, as the baby's tiny body relaxed in his strong yet gentle embrace. The warrior's large hands cradled the child without pressure, his touch firm but tender. The infant's cries softened immediately, replaced by quiet sighs of comfort and trust. The mother's eyes filled with tears as she realized that her little one was safe, enveloped in warmth and protection, that seemed almost unshakable. The warrior moved with a rhythm that mirrored the mother's own movements. He rocked the baby gently, humming softly in a low, soothing tone. The sound was unfamiliar but strangely calming, and the infant's eyes slowly closed, surrendering to the sense of security that filled the air. The mother knelt beside them, her own tears now quiet, watching the stranger embrace her child with such care. She could feel a connection forming, a silent bond of trust, understanding, and compassion. Time seemed to slow as the sun continued its descent in the sky, painting the plains in shades of gold and orange. The warrior continued to hold the baby, never rushing, never letting go of the fragile trust being built. He spoke softly to the mother, his voice gentle and steady. "The little one is safe now. You have done well to care for it so far, but even the strongest need help sometimes. Let it rest in my arms and gather your strength too." The mother nodded, feeling the weight of exhaustion lift slightly. For the first time in hours, she allowed herself to breathe, to sit quietly in the shade, and to watch as her baby experienced warmth and comfort in the arms of someone she had come to trust. She could see that the warrior's eyes, though calm and watchful, carried an understanding of responsibility that reached far beyond the ordinary. He treated the infant not as a burden, but as a precious life, worthy of care, attention, and love. The baby stirred occasionally, tiny fingers brushing against the warrior's chest, seeking contact and reassurance. The man responded each time with patience, letting the baby feel his presence without forcing attention. The mother felt her heart swell with gratitude, understanding that sometimes true strength lies in gentleness and calm, in quiet acts of care that speak louder than words. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the plains, the warrior began to prepare them for movement again. He showed the mother how to carefully pack the blanket and the small supplies, explaining which items might be needed first if the journey continued through the evening. The mother followed his guidance, learning not just how to care for the baby, but also how to observe the land, how to anticipate its challenges, and how to move with confidence and patience. When they were ready, the warrior gently lifted the baby again, cradling it against his chest as they began to walk. The infant's tiny hands rested against his shoulders, its head tucked securely, and its eyes occasionally fluttered open to look at the man holding it. The mother walked beside them, holding his hand for support, her own heart lighter than it had been all day. She felt hope returning, a sense that the journey ahead, while long and uncertain, could be traveled safely with someone who understood both the land and the delicate life she carried. Along the way, the warrior spoke softly, teaching the mother small lessons about the plains. He pointed out safe places to rest, areas where water could be found, and subtle signs in the grasses and the wind that indicated both safety and danger. Every word was patient, every action deliberate, giving the mother confidence in her own ability to care for her child while also showing her that help could come from unexpected places. The baby remained calm throughout, soothed by the gentle rhythm of the warrior's movements. Occasionally, it let out a small coo or a sigh, its tiny body relaxed in his arms. The mother watched with a mixture of awe and gratitude, realizing that this stranger, this protector from the plains, had become an essential part of their small circle of life and safety. As the sun began to set completely, painting the sky in shades of pink and violet, the warrior found a small clearing near a stream. He knelt gently on the soft grass, placing the baby down carefully for a moment to adjust the blanket and make sure it was comfortable. The mother knelt beside them, her hands brushing the baby's tiny face, making sure it was warm and soothed. The warrior's presence remained calm and reassuring, standing nearby to ensure their safety, while giving them space to rest. They stayed there for a while, the baby resting comfortably between them. The mother felt her heart swell with relief and gratitude, understanding the quiet power of compassion and protection. She whispered softly to the infant, "See, little one, there is kindness in the world, people who care, people who protect, people who love." The baby responded with a tiny smile, and the mother's heart lifted further. Night fell gently over the plains, the stars beginning to twinkle like tiny lanterns in the sky. The warrior gathered the small supplies once more, ensuring that the baby and the mother had everything they needed for a safe night. The mother felt a deep sense of peace, knowing that their journey, while not over, would continue with care, attention, and the steady guidance of someone who had already proven themselves trustworthy. In that quiet moment, the mother realized something profound. That trust could grow even in the harshest circumstances, that safety could appear when hope seemed lost, and that even the smallest acts of kindness, cradling a fragile life, offering water, guiding with patience, could change everything. She looked at the warrior, her eyes shining with gratitude, and knew that this moment, this embrace, would be remembered for the rest of her life. The night had fully settled over the plains, and the sky was a deep velvet sprinkled with countless stars, their soft light reflecting on the gentle waves of grass. A quiet calm hung over the small clearing where the mother, the baby, and the Apache warrior had stopped to rest. The faint sound of the nearby stream trickled over smooth stones, creating a peaceful rhythm that seemed to slow time itself. The mother held her baby close, feeling the small, steady heartbeat against her chest, and she realized just how far they had come since the morning hours of fear and uncertainty. The warrior sat nearby, his posture relaxed yet vigilant. Even in rest, his eyes scanned the horizon, a quiet guardian of the small family before him. He understood the dangers of the plains, the hidden challenges that could appear at any moment. But for now, the night was calm. His presence alone gave the mother a sense of safety she had not felt in days. She glanced at him, noting the quiet strength and care that had guided them this far. The baby stirred slightly, tiny arms stretching and curling, its eyes half open. The mother whispered softly, smoothing the infant's soft hair, "It's all right, little one. We are safe here." The baby's small sigh of contentment seemed to echo the mother's relief. She had watched her child cry from hunger earlier that day, and now, seeing it calm and secure in both her arms and the warrior's presence, her heart felt full. Gratitude welled inside her like a quiet river, steady and unstoppable. The warrior spoke softly, breaking the silence in a gentle tone. "You have shown great courage," he said to the mother, "to care for your child alone on these plains, to keep hope alive when it seemed lost. That is strength that not all possess. But remember, even the strongest can accept help, and that does not make them weak. It makes them wise." The mother listened carefully, feeling each word as if it were a warm hand on her shoulder. She nodded slowly, understanding the truth in his words. The baby stirred again, and the warrior reached over carefully to offer his hands once more. The mother allowed him to cradle the infant, and as he did, the baby rested its tiny head against his chest, its small fingers clutching his tunic lightly. The mother watched, her heart swelling with relief. In that simple act, she saw more than protection. She saw love, patience, and the deep, instinctive care of someone who understood the value of life in its most fragile form. Night deepened, and the temperature of the plains began to drop. The mother gathered the small blanket around the baby, and the warrior showed her how to tuck it in gently, keeping the infant warm while still allowing freedom of movement. Every motion was deliberate, careful, and full of consideration. The mother had learned much in a single day. From observing the warrior's actions, she had absorbed lessons about patience, care and trust. The baby, sensing comfort and protection, finally closed its eyes fully, drifting into a peaceful sleep. The mother sighed, a long, quiet exhale of relief and gratitude. She looked at the warrior and spoke softly. "I do not know how to thank you. You have saved my child, and you have given me hope." The warrior shook his head slightly, a modest smile on his face. "No thanks are needed," he said. "It is our duty to protect life where we can. The world can be harsh, but it is also full of those willing to help when hearts are open." Taking in the truth of his words, she realized that her journey across the plains had been filled with fear, uncertainty, and challenges she could not have predicted. Yet, in the same journey, she had discovered something more powerful than fear: compassion, trust, and the courage to accept help when it was offered. The warrior's calm presence had turned a day of struggle into a lesson in hope, teaching her that kindness could be found even in the most unexpected places. Time passed slowly, and the cool night breeze rustled the grass around them. The warrior maintained a quiet vigil, watching the perimeter and keeping them safe from any hidden dangers that might emerge. The mother, feeling her own strength return, sat beside the warrior, letting him take the lead, while also learning from his calm awareness of the world around them. She realized that survival was not just about strength, but about understanding, observation, and thoughtful action. As the stars shone above, the mother began to speak softly to the warrior, telling him stories about her family, the village she had left behind, and the hopes she held for her child's future. Her voice was quiet but steady, carrying both memories and dreams. The warrior listened carefully, his eyes never leaving the baby, but showing attention and respect for the mother's words. He occasionally offered soft advice or guidance, always gentle, always patient, never overbearing. The baby shifted in its sleep, and the warrior adjusted it carefully in his arms. He whispered softly, almost as if to teach the child comfort even before it could understand words. "Sleep well, little one," he murmured. "You are safe, and you are protected. Life is strong, and so are you." The mother watched silently, tears welling in her eyes, realizing the depth of the bond that had been formed in just a single day. Eventually, the mother felt the courage to stand and stretch her tired legs. She turned to the warrior and asked softly, "Will we make it to safety soon?" The warrior nodded, pointing to a distant rise in the plains. "There is shelter beyond that hill," he said. "We will rest there tomorrow. For now, the night is calm, and the baby is safe. You have done well to keep moving." The mother took a deep breath, drawing in the cool night air, and felt hope settling firmly in her heart. She watched the baby sleep in the warrior's arms, realizing that this moment would be remembered forever. The day had begun with tears, hunger, and fear, and yet it ended with calm, safety, and trust. The plains, vast and unpredictable, had revealed their harshness, but also their capacity for connection, for unexpected kindness, and for protection when it mattered most. The warrior eventually lay down on the grass, keeping the baby and mother close in a protective circle. The mother leaned against him, her own body tired from the day's exertion, but her heart full of gratitude. The baby rested quietly between them, breathing steadily and securely. Together they formed a small, temporary family, bound not by blood but by circumstance, care, and trust. As the night deepened, the mother whispered softly to the warrior, "I will never forget what you have done for us." The warrior simply nodded, a gentle smile on his face. "Remember this," he said quietly, "the world is wide, and people are many. Trust and kindness can be found even in the vastest places. You and your child are strong, and that strength will carry you forward." Hours passed, and sleep began to take hold. The mother felt her own eyelids grow heavy, her body finally giving in to rest. She could feel the steady rhythm of the warrior's breathing, the calm strength in his presence, and the small life of her child nestled safely between them. For the first time that day, she felt a sense of complete peace. When dawn finally broke, painting the plains with soft light, the mother woke to see the warrior still watching over them. The baby stirred gently, small eyes opening to take in the world once more. The mother smiled, her heart light, knowing that the night had been survived, that safety had been found, and that hope had been restored. The warrior handed her the baby carefully, and she held it close, feeling warmth, love, and relief in equal measure. Together, they prepared to continue their journey across the plains. The warrior's guidance would remain, but now the mother felt renewed strength within herself. She had learned how to protect her child, how to trust, and how to move with patience and understanding. The baby, nourished, safe, and comforted, cooed softly, reaching out to the mother as if sensing the bond they shared. As they walked toward the distant rise, the mother looked at the warrior with gratitude in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything." The warrior only nodded, his eyes calm, his presence steady. "Keep your heart open," he replied. "Courage and care will guide you through every challenge. You and your child are strong, and that strength will carry you far." The plains stretched before them, wide and golden, but the fear that had once filled the mother's heart had been replaced by hope. With her child safe in her arms and the guidance of the warrior, she knew that they could face whatever lay ahead. The sun rose higher, promising a new day, and the plains seemed less threatening, filled instead with opportunity, life, and quiet promise. In that moment, the mother understood a truth that would remain with her forever. Even in the harshest circumstances, kindness can appear unexpectedly. Trust can be built in a single day, and hope can be restored when hearts are open to care, guidance, and love. And as she walked forward with her baby and the warrior, she felt a deep, unshakable certainty that they would survive, thrive, and remember the lessons of that day for the rest of their lives.